Used to see, parts of cars and stuff sticking out and, just in all different spots.
It was muddy. It was dirty.
The Hudson River was a mess. It was disgusting. It was a sewer.
When you saw the waters in 1965, 66, 67, 69, they said there was a glow on top of the river because there were things that were growing in the river that shouldn't be there.
I could remember trying to swim, and you come out and you had a nice little coating of thick on you.
The Hudson River was filthy. It was so polluted that it was almost written off as a river. It was seen as an industrial waterway.
I know that they've been working on trying to clean it up.
Oh, I think it's a lot cleaner than it was.
The folk singer Pete Seeger actually was one of the guys who got it started. He had this idea of building a boat to help clean up the Hudson River.
I had fallen in love with sailing when I had a job on Cape Cod. And I bought a little plastic boat and was teaching myself how to sail. And then I looked into the water I was sailing through and saw lumps of this and that along with the toilet paper.
Pete Seeger took a look at his beloved Hudson River, and he decided that there's got to be a way to educate people about its importance so it could be restored to its original health.
Vic Schwartz was telling Pete Seeger about these Hudson River sloops, and Pete said, you know what? The Hudson River's really polluted, but if we can get this next generation of kids down to the river, maybe we can have a chance to clean this up.
I said, Vic, no one we know has this kind of money, but if we got enough people together, we could probably do it. They built a replica of the Mayflower. Why can't we build a replica of a Hudson River sloop?
Somebody had given him a book about old wooden boats, and he fell in love with the design of the old wooden sloop, the Dutch sloop. And at all of the concerts that he played at, he would pass his banjo, and little kids would put a nickel, or if they could really afford it, they'd put a quarter in the banjo, and the adults would put $1, or if they were wealthy, they might put $10. And eventually they got enough money together to go to some large donors with this wonderful idea of building a sloop that could sail up and down the river, teach people about the river, and eventually find a way to get the river cleaned up again.
This beautiful, beautiful sailboat was launched up in Maine where it was built, and I was on the first crew bringing it to New York.
Legacy of Clearwater is the 40-year plus history of focusing, gathering together and focusing as a collective on a very daunting task, is to clean up the Hudson River and preserve it for future generations. So that's the goal, and so I take on that mission in every day that I work with Clearwater. My daily work, I engage with. We have thousands of people that have volunteered for the organization over the years, and it's trying to find skill sets and interests and tapping them into the collective goal of our work. Many people volunteer on the boat, which we have every year from April to November. We sail up and down the Hudson River, and you have a full-time crew on the boat of 6 people plus the captain, and you also have 6 to 8 volunteers who come and they help to sail the boat and to educate the children.
I'm the winter maintenance coordinator aboard Clearwater. So basically I'm just in charge of coordinating the winter crew and volunteers and the projects that we're doing, and keeping track of who spends how many hours on what projects, and writing a report of it at the end of the winter.
Being a leader of Clearwater is trying to really get the grassroots excited, inspired, educated, get them to do I have to help them to achieve great things on the river, to reach out to many kids, to reach out and help deal with energy issues, to take care of the Indian Point issues. And so it's very unique. So I get to be executive director, but it's not a normal executive director. It's really kind of being more of a troubadour. Pete Seeger set that as a real goal of Clearwater, where the members actually pick our board of directors, and the members are the ones that we activate when we have something that we need to accomplish.
I'm just really proud to be a part of a legacy that Pete Seeger started, to clean up a river, be sure it stays cleaned up, ensure the health and safety of the people that live in the valley, and do it through education and advocacy.
I know some of the founders of Clearwater have been working on this for 45 years, and they still inspire this next generation to step up and be environmental leaders. And so that's kind of where my motivation comes. Obviously, working in environmental organizations, it's not like a for-profit environment. You're not getting paid a lot for the work, but the reward is all of that work together, and that it does actually make a difference. We now know that the Hudson River is cleaner than it was 40 years ago.
A while ago, when I had a problem with the PCPs, I understand, I don't know for sure, but I understand they're really trying to do, stuff about it to, take care of the environment. And, I think that's just good for everybody.
When I first moved here, there was all the talk about the PVCs and whatnot, and up in the Troy area and whatnot. And so it's been a major effort there to clean it up.
The PCB issue is still ongoing. This was the first year that we've actually, after about 30 years of working with the Environmental Protection Agency and the New York State Department of DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, the DEC and the EPA and other agencies and other organizations have worked to see how we can actually clean it up. Well, the engineers got together and they started to define certain technology that we could get to the bottom of the river where the PCBs had concentrated, pull them up, and try to remove them from the river. So we start to remove those contaminants.
We still have a long way to go. It'll take at least a generation after the PCBs are removed from the upper Hudson. So one of the things we're doing now is trying to help people to understand that although the river looks a lot cleaner, and it really does, I mean, you'll see pictures of this scenic, beautiful Hudson River, but it looks beautiful up in Fort Edward too, and Hudson Falls, where the PCBs are most concentrated, where they just started the dredging. It looks beautiful, but it's still very toxic.
Indian Point's another example. Indian Point was one of the key components of the Atoms for Peace program. It was a 1950s and 60s federal program to build nuclear power plants around this country. Indian Point is one of the oldest power plants of its kind in the country, and there's about 105 nuclear power plants like it, or in various forms around the country. It's on the Hudson River. It's about 45 miles from New York City. It's the one nuclear power plant in the country with the highest population surrounding it. And every day they're taking thousands and thousands of gallons of Hudson River water for the cooling process. And they're evacuating water that's very hot, because when they're cooling down these they're using the steam to actually create the energy, and they're cooling down the facility, and ultimately the water goes back hot into the river.
The PCBs that were discharged into the upper Hudson River are still in high concentrations there, but they're also present in the mid and lower portions of the Hudson River, so much so that it's still not safe to eat the fish.
The Hudson used to be a big fishing river. People used to eat, and the families along the Hudson River used to eat the fish in the river. But as they saw the pollution levels in the fish being too high, mercury, PCBs, lead, that the concentration of many of these toxins made it so that the river was no longer useful for feeding us. The fish populations were decreasing, and the contaminants we were finding in the fish that were there were just too high. So the first major effort was the Clean Water Act.